Just like we showed in the other video about the overvoting that happened in Kogi State during the presidential election, we will show you in this video the overvoting that happened in Plateau State and Rivers State, as well as answer some questions. A lot of people are interested in Plateau State because of the revelation by even the opposition that Labour Party got more than 1 million votes. Also the fact that Plateau State wasn't mentioned when Labour Party were tendering certified true copies from INEC at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. So let's start with what is overvoting. Overvoting literally means when the number of votes in a polling unit are more than the number of registered voters. You can't have 500 registered voters in a polling unit and after the election, the total number of votes will be 550. That's simply overvoting. How can overvoting be stopped? Even before the introduction of Beaver's machine, it was easy to stop overvoting because polling officers came with voters' register to compare names of voters against the voters' register. If your name is not there, you can't vote. Now, with the introduction of Beaver's machine, it has become automatic. In the process of accreditation, the voter is verified against the database of registered voters at the polling unit. If it's positive, accreditation will succeed. If not, the person can't vote. The Beaver's machine will also stop further accreditation once the number of registered voters in the polling unit have been fulfilled, because it's verifying the names of voters on the registered voters database. It's simply not possible to have more than that number. So why did overvoting occur despite the use of Beaver's machine during the election? First of all, majority of overvoting happened at the collation centers. It's simply not possible for overvoting to occur at the polling unit since the introduction of Beavers. When thugs storm a polling unit to cut away ballot papers and other materials, it's because they don't want the polling officers to record what happened. They don't want them to record the scores. If they record the scores and votes of each party at the polling unit and go on to give party agents their copies, then it's over. There's nothing the thugs or the politicians behind them can do. Even INEC officials can't cancel election at the polling unit except there was violence or other issues. So the reason thugs cut away ballot papers is for them to go and write their own fake results, and without having an accomplice at the ward collation center, they won't succeed. The ward collation officer must be working with the thugs and politicians behind them in order to accept their result. This is because ward collation officers know all the polling agents, and since they know them, they should be the only ones to submit forms EC8A to them for collation. In most ward collation centers where the opposition party agents were not allowed entrance, it was simply because they were writing fake results, and in most cases, they overshot the number of accredited voters. This leads to overvoting. It is not actually overvoting in this case, it's over-rigging. The Beaver's machine is programmed in a way that overvoting will not occur at the polling unit. But when people start allocating figures like it happened in Obi local government area of Rivers State and in Kano East local government area during the governorship election in Enugu State, plus other places they manufactured results, this is what you get. They overshoot the numbers because they don't have the information about the registered voters. This is why the electoral law should be amended to allow electronic collation. Polling officers should be able to punch in the figures after vote counting, and everyone will be seeing the results in real time. Political parties will just be looking at the uploaded results, comparing their own copies. It will seriously improve transparency. The time it takes a polling officer to reach the ward collation center, many things can happen on the way. Why not just punch the results after vote counting? Very simple, and let no one mention security and hacking. The United States does electronic collation. Turkey just conducted a presidential election the other day, and results were announced the same day. So it can be done. Let them just improve their system and enable top-level encryption, so that when the results are sent through the Beaver's machine, it will be encrypted and decrypted at the server end. Now, let's see the total number of accredited voters by Beavers in Plateau State. According to the INEC certified true copies of Beavers report for Plateau State, 1,069,459 voters were accredited during the presidential election in Plateau State. Compare this number with the total accredited number of voters that INEC announced for Plateau State. That's 1,139,393. There's a difference of 69,934 votes. So almost 70,000 votes were added to a candidate or some candidates at the collation centers in Plateau State during the presidential election. Looking at this form EC8D used in collating Plateau State presidential election results, it's obvious where the figures were padded, as you can see on APC's row. How can the collation officer be using TPEX on the form and they submitted this form to Abuja? The INEC chairman didn't query the results? Well, why would he? He was part of the whole rigging. If not, he should have waited to verify or at least invite the local government collation agents to compare figures. After all, he invited INEC commissioners in Enugu and Abia states during the governorship election. If he could do that, why didn't he do the same thing during the presidential election? We all know the reason. The INEC chairman intentionally blocked upload of presidential election results so that this kind of rigging and manipulation can take place. And being in collusion, he hurriedly announced the winner, leaving many traces of the heist they committed behind. This kind of rigging was widespread during the presidential election, and even the recent and final EU report on the election attests to that. One more thing to know is that it's not only by overvoting that the allocated figures can be detected. Overvoting are the ones where they overshot the number of accredited voters. What about the ones where they just transferred votes of another party to their own? All these will be proved in court by the Labour Party, and who knows, when the lawful votes are recalculated in Plateau State, the APC may not have the required 25%. Yes, many on the field that day have said this, that P2B's margin on election day was far greater than what INEC eventually announced. These are among the many reasons the Electoral Act should be amended. Even if they don't allow electronic collation, announcement of local government area results and subsequent collation at the state level should be done the same time. When the collation is done local government area by local government area, it gives riggers the idea of how many votes they need to add in order to win an opponent. This played out in Rivers State, where they intentionally delayed Obiakpo local government area until they knew the results of other local government areas. How can one brazenly overturn the will of the people? Labour Party scored more than 70,000 votes in Obiakpo local government area. Going through many polling unit results in Obiakpo on IREV, it was a landslide win for the Labour Party, but Wike and his thugs, in collusion with INEC officials, gave APC a whopping 80,000 votes and a paltry 3,000 votes to Labour Party. So this piecemeal announcement of local government area results at the State Collation Center gave them the margin they needed to overturn in order to give Tinubu the win. That's why Rivers State has the highest number of presidential election results not uploaded on IREV. Out of about 6,800 polling units in Rivers State, only about 5,700 and something polling units were uploaded, and more than 1,000 still missing and unuploaded. That's the same reason INEC refused to provide certified true copies of results from Obiakpo local government area, because that would be an acceptance that they transferred P2B's votes to Tinubu. Now, let's see the difference in the number of accredited voters in Rivers State during the presidential election compared to what INEC announced. The top figure, 605,055, represents the number that INEC announced, while 583,919 represents the actual number of voters accredited by Beavers on election day. As you can see, there's a difference of about 22,000. Considering the fact that INEC didn't provide some CTCs of results to the Labour Party, what will they do to prove their case? Like already said in many videos, they will use alternatives to prove their case. Apart from tendering alternatives, what they need to do is to establish a pattern of rigging. This can be seen in the number of witnesses they've called so far. They were able to establish how the rigging took place, and having subpoenaed INEC and the INEC representative went on record in court that they do not have some of the results. The judges will no longer accord the high probate value that INEC CTCs have because they've accepted they don't have them. Since the maker of the document accepted in court that they do not have the documents, they can't hold the court to ransom or stop the case from moving forward. So the court will rely on alternatives. If INEC is sure of the results they announced, why can't they provide documents to support the claim? Now, let's answer some questions. Pace wants to know what will happen to the Senate President if Peter Obi is sworn in. Nothing will happen to him because the legislative arm of government that he heads is a different arm of government. It has nothing to do with the executive arm. A president has no power to sack the Senate President, so they will just maintain a cordial relationship and work together to give Nigerians good governance. Michael wants to know why many of the polling unit videos are not being used in court as evidence. The way the court works, in order for this video to be admissible in court and add value to the case, you have to bring the maker of the video to testify. Besides, the testimony and value they will add to the petition are already covered by the submission of INEC CTCs. So looking at the INEC CTCs, they will see the results in many polling units and see the difference compared to what INEC announced. Afro wants to know if Peter Obi can be declared winner despite not scoring 25% in 2/3 of the states. Well, that's your own claim. He said he won the election, and if one can say he won an election, that means he met all the conditions. And the court can never declare someone winner without verifying that he met all the conditions, including the 2/3 in Abuja and everywhere. Chike wants to know if the percentages of the candidates will decrease if Tinubu is disqualified and his votes declared null and void. No, that's not how it works. Actually, Ruben responded correctly to your question, but for more clarity in case others are wondering, the fact that votes are declared null doesn't mean that people didn't vote for the person. It simply means that the votes won't count for the disqualified candidate. The nullification of votes is a result of disqualification. In other words, the court can't disqualify someone without voiding his votes. In the case of Abuja, it won't change the percentage of votes each candidate scored in the election. It's just that the percentage of votes and the number won't count for Tinubu in a situation where he's disqualified. In the other video, some people disagreed that people won't come out to vote in case the tribunal cancels the election. They believe that people will still troop out in their numbers to vote for Peter Obi and his win margin will increase significantly. This might be true because in just about 1 month, many people that voted for Tinubu are already complaining on social media. They can't hide it any longer. The cost of living has increased more than 3-fold, with the exchange rate hovering around 800 naira to the dollar. So Nigerians are experiencing the worst hard time in their history. And since petrol is imported, the price per liter will always depend on the exchange rate. So it's very possible that a liter of petrol might reach 800 naira to 1,000 in the near future. Before removing the fuel subsidy completely, they should have at least made sure that alternative fuels like compressed natural gas are readily available across the country so that commercial buses, long-distance ones, and huge trucks can use CNG instead of petrol or diesel. This would have made transportation cheap for the average worker, even cheaper than when petrol was selling for 195 naira per liter. CNG sells for about 100 and something naira per kg. It is used in many Western countries as alternative to petrol because petrol is more expensive. There's a lot Tinubu could have done to make life easier for Nigerians, but because he doesn't have human empathy, even the World Bank and other foreigners he wanted to impress are warning that millions of Nigerians more will be plunged into poverty because of the fuel subsidy removal and the subsequent inflation that it has caused. So having seen the calamity and the misery brought upon them in just under 1 month, many people will happily vote Peter Obi in case a new election is called. This is very likely. Tinubu has shown that he is not a progressive like he likes to claim. Petrol is the lifeline of Nigeria's economy. Virtually everyone depends on petrol at home, in the office, at work. No alternative, unlike in Western countries where there are electric trams that don't use petrol that people use to go about their business. There's 24-hour electricity, so no one needs petrol to power a generator. Showing this level of incompetency might just quickly lead Nigeria into another recession. Thanks for watching.